It is Monday and it is a really grey and miserable Monday. We had a bit of snow over the weekend, definitely not as much as many parts of Cumbria did, but enough to cover everything. But then last night it froze and it is now raining, and because the ground is still cold, the rain is kind of just freezing onto the existing ice. So it is really treacherous out there. But because it is a Monday, there is a lot to do. I started off my day by cleaning in our holiday let. Whatever else happens, this is the one non-negotiable every week. We usually have guests in over the weekend and they tend to leave on a Sunday, which means before the next guests arrive on Friday, we have to get the house ready again. So this morning I've been cleaning in the kitchen, as you saw, and Monday often tends to be my laundry day as well. Now I do all the washing and ironing for the entire house. It is quite a big job, but I do have a commercial iron, as you will see in a minute. So I actually don't mind ironing too much. It tends to be a chance for me to just sit and listen to a podcast or an audiobook and just kind of while away the hours. Before I get into that though, I should just say hello, my name is Amy. Welcome to the vlog. If you are new to my channel, I thought I would give you a quick introduction to who I am and what this vlog is going to be about, which is how we make our living. So I am a writer and we also run a small holding with sheep and alpacas. And my partner and I are also converting a barn into a home. But our primary income, really more than 95% of it, comes from our holiday let, which is available on Airbnb. I will tell you more about the house and the business as the week goes on, but it is a 5-bedroom house. It is a historic property, perhaps 17th century, we're not exactly sure. And running the house, both cleaning it, doing all the laundry, and also maintaining the property, answering questions from guests, doing all the gardening. This is our full-time job and it is how we make a living out here in a fairly isolated part of the north of England. We took over the house in 2021. It had been a holiday let previously, and before that it had been a rental property. And we have also been in the holiday and hospitality business for a while. Before we ran this holiday let, we actually ran quite a large bed and breakfast for 7 years. That was over in Yorkshire. So that is the very quick background to what we're doing here and what you are going to see me doing over the course of this week. Now I had better get on with that ironing. I'm perching rather ungracefully on the floor so that you can see the iron behind me. I spend so many hours with this machine every week that I probably should give it a name. It is a very grey Tuesday morning and we are here in front of the fire again, so I can give you a little update. Today is going to be another day of ironing, maybe a little bit of cleaning in the house, but we do have some work on the barn to do today. We have someone coming to talk through our plans for underfloor heating and where the pipework is going to go. Now that does feel a little bit premature because at this moment the barn has 4 exterior walls and that is it. There is no solid floor down yet, it has no internal walls and it has no roof. But converting a building is more difficult than building from scratch, and there are a lot of things like pipes and wires and ventilation to consider even at this early stage. There is a huge amount of planning to do. So it's going to be a bit of a mix today, as my days often are. It is quite rare that I spend the entire day working on cleaning the house. Monday is often the exception to that. Now, before I get started for the day, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the business of holiday letting, because I know this can be a bit of a contentious issue, and for good reason, to be honest. Now, the holiday letting market in the UK is quite well established. It has been around for decades and long before Airbnb existed, long before the internet existed as well. But of course, with the arrival of Airbnb and similar sites, the whole market really exploded. What was once a fairly steady established market in this country has really become quite saturated, and that is because a lot of people who were previously in different areas of property have seen holiday letting as a way basically to get rich quick. I do think long term the market is going to settle down again. I think a lot of the people who have opened Airbnbs in the last 5 years will not stay in the business long term, but that is only my personal prediction. For us, the reason we got into first running a traditional bed and breakfast and now doing the holiday letting is that I inherited some money from my grandma, and we wanted to use that money not to just put it in a bank or saving somewhere, but to actively use it to change our lives. Now, we have since borrowed a lot of money to grow our businesses, but that initial inheritance got us started. It allowed us to move back to the countryside because we'd been living in Nottingham. It allowed us to set up a business, to grow that business, and ultimately to end up here. And I grew up on a farm deep in the countryside, so I was very glad to find a way to move back. Now, with this specific holiday letting business, we did consider very carefully what we wanted to do. We did not want to be managing a holiday let from hundreds of miles away, sitting behind a desk somewhere. For us, this is a very practical, hands-on business. As you saw yesterday, we do all the cleaning and laundry and maintenance. This is our main source of income and we take it very seriously. But we were also very certain that we wanted to live on site and to be part of the community that exists here. Running this business started as a way to do something with the money we'd inherited, but over time it has evolved as a way to stay in the countryside. We are able to own land and keep animals. We shop locally and use local businesses and trades. Our daughter goes to the local school, we fundraise for the school, we go to community events, we know our neighbours, and all of these aspects were very important to us. They make a huge difference in a lifestyle that can easily be quite isolating, and they're also the reason that we are sticking it out here in this tiny home whilst we build our new house. We could have tried to live somewhere else and continued to manage the holiday let business from a distance, but that really isn't what we wanted to do. We wanted to start to embed ourselves in this community and really get to know people. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the house that we let out. Now, we're not exactly sure how old it is. It could be 17th century, it could be 18th century. There is mixed opinions on this. There have certainly been people living in this hamlet since the 16th century, but no one knows for certain which house that was. Now, in terms of using a historic house as a holiday let, it actually lends itself to that really well for a couple of reasons. For one thing, it is very expensive to live in. We did actually live in it for a couple of months last last winter, and honestly, with the way fuel prices are right now, we could not afford to turn on quite a lot of the heating. The house has been quite significantly upgraded. It is not drafty, it does not have single glazed windows, it has modern heating and lots of insulation in the roof. But even so, it is a really expensive house to run. And so the holiday letting really allows us to keep it in use and keep it relatively profitable. We're not making huge amounts of money here, I should say. It is just enough to pay our bills and allow us to live in relative comfort, by our standards at least. So we kind of see ourselves as custodians of this house, and it's a real pleasure to take care of it. Yes, it could be a home for a family, but it's not an easy house to live in, as I've said. So the holiday letting is a really nice compromise. It also cannot legally be let or rented out as a long-term let, because despite all the upgrades it has had, it does not meet energy performance standards for rentals. So whilst we have considered other options for the house in the past, right now the holiday let is really the best option. It allows us to live here on site. It pays our bills, it maintains the house, it allows us to be part of this lovely community, and we're really hoping to be here for a long time to come. We have pretty much made the commitment that we want to stay here at least until our daughter leaves school, and she is only 5 right now, so we're in it for the long haul. Right, I have definitely talked long enough. I need to stoke up this fire and then I have to get to work. It was -10 last night, our coldest night of the season so far, and it is still about -5, so let's continue the conversation inside. It is a very icy Wednesday morning. We were supposed to be working in the barn today. We were going to be digging and possibly laying some more concrete, but it was so cold last night that I think the ground is just going to be completely frozen. A lot of the digging at this stage needs to be done by hand, and I just don't think we're going to be able to do it. So that means the work in the barn is probably going to get put off until tomorrow and Friday, when much milder temperatures and lots of rain are forecast. Although it's not very pleasant, we can dig in the rain. And that means today we will be back working in the house and getting the last of the cleaning wrapped up. And if I have time, I would really like to get to writing today. Now, writing has an interesting place in my schedule. If you've been subscribed to my channel for a while, you may have seen my many writing vlogs. This really is how this channel started out. I have been writing seriously ever since I was about 15 or 16. I have written countless novels in that time and published, I think at this stage, 13 or 14. So in a lot of ways, I do treat writing like a job. I make a lot of time for it, but it does not contribute very meaningfully to our income, which means that the day job work has to come first. And right now, because life is busy, that means that a lot of the writing is taking place at night. Now, I do fit it in the day when I can. I much prefer to write in the mornings, but that just isn't always possible. So I've kind of got into a routine at the moment of doing day job work and work in the barn during the day, and at night I will sit down and write for maybe 30 minutes to an hour. It's often quite hard for me to concentrate at night, but honestly this is just the reality of my schedule at the moment. There is the hope in the back of my mind that one day the writing will make more money and I will be able to spend more time on it. It is a bit of a catch-22 of course, because it has more potential to make money if I can spend more time on it, but I can't really spend more time on it until it makes more money. So at the moment I'm spending probably between 5 and 10 hours a week on the writing. I would like to spend more time on it than that, but that is just what my life allows. It is late on Thursday afternoon and I am back in my favourite place in front of the fire. I hope you can hear me actually, because it is spectacularly wet outside. But I wanted to catch you up on how the work week is going. Now this morning was for grocery shopping. That is a Thursday morning staple, and to be honest that does take most of the morning. It is about an hour round trip into our closest town, so it is a bit of a commitment to get the shopping done. And living out here, if you forget to buy something at the shop, you pretty much just do without it until next week. And then once we got back, I spent some time doing some more work in the house. Work has been a little bit fragmented this week. The weather has thrown us off quite a lot. I think I've caught yet another cold, so I've been feeling a little bit under the weather. Sometimes the work in the house only takes about a day and a half if we're being really efficient. But this week it has really dragged on over too many days. But it is just about finished, the heating is on, we're getting everything ready for the guests' arrival tomorrow. There is very little left to do. And while we are cozy in front of the fire, I wanted to chat a bit about other work opportunities living somewhere like this, because I would certainly never suggest that everyone who wants to move to the countryside should rush out and buy themselves a property to list on Airbnb. I think honestly, if you want to move somewhere rural, you typically have three main options. You either start or run an existing business like we are doing here, or you are trained in some kind of trade like you are a builder or an electrician, because those are always incredibly in-demand roles. And the other option of course is to work remotely, to be freelance, basically to work online. Now this is much easier rurally than it used to be. Where we are now, we are covered by a service provider called Barn, that is broadband for the rural north, and we actually have some of the fastest fibre internet in the entire country. It is an incredible service. It is largely rolled out and has been rolled out by a huge army of volunteers, and a lot of the funding for new areas when the service expands comes from the locals themselves. We are actually shareholders in Barn. We put some money in to try and boost the resources for the new service in this area to make sure that it definitely got to us. and it has been worth every penny. So if you do have a remote internet-based job, do not rule out doing that in a rural location, because the internet is not always as bad as you might think. What I will say is, if you are moving to a rural area with no idea of what job you are going to have, then you are going to need to be relatively flexible. There are not that many full-time positions, not many office jobs, and a lot of what you will find in the small towns and villages in a place like Cumbria will be part-time and seasonal. There is definitely retail work or work in hospitality, but you are unlikely to find a full-time position that lasts all year, because the economy here really does come to life in the summer with the influx in tourism, and things are much slower paced in the winter. Now, my work day is done and I am very glad, because I don't particularly want to go back outside in this weather. Tomorrow we've just got 10-20 minutes of work left to wrap up the house, and then depending on the weather we might be back working in the barn getting some more concreting done, or we might squeeze a walk in. I have just had a delivery of some snow boots and I am really looking forward to wearing them outside. Now actually the snow has completely melted here with all this rain, but the only other walking shoes I have at the moment are a pair of walking trainers that have absolutely fallen to pieces, so it's nice to have something new and shiny. It is 10:30 on Friday morning and it looks like we have just about finished our work for the week. We've got a couple of jobs left to do. We have to take some recycling into town and also buy some more kindling. And then I am hoping to spend this afternoon either curled up with a book, which would be really nice, or perhaps doing some writing. It doesn't really look like we're going to be working in the barn today because the weather forecast looks awful for this afternoon. So I think it's going to be one to just spend by the fire. This week has been both fairly typical and a bit all over the place. In terms of the work we've had to do, this is what we do week in and week out. Little maintenance jobs, cleaning the house, doing all the laundry, and if the weather permits, working in the barn. So that is very much what my work week looks like most of the year. There have been a few complications this week though. We have had battles with the weather, we've had ice, we've had winds, we've had a lot of rain, and that is on top of all the snow and frost that we had last week. There have also been some issues with the caravan. Our water heater stopped working a couple of days ago, so we've been scrambling to try and fix that. Having said that, it's not freezing anymore, so we do now have running cold water to the caravan. It does feel at the moment like we can never just get everything working all at one go. Something always goes wrong. But that is where I am going to leave you for this week. Thank you for joining me for this work week vlog. I hope it has been a little bit enlightening about how we make our living out here in the countryside. There are sometimes days when I think life would be so much easier if I just moved to a town and got a proper 9-to-5 job. But you know, where would be the fun in that? So thanks for being here and I'll see you next time.